Hi everyone. Now, firstly, I apologize. I'm not looking my cutest. I could have put on some lip something and, just done this better. But I had a wave of inspiration, which isn't really that much of a revelation. And I just had to get on here. I just don't even have the energy to hold the camera at my good angles or anything like that. But let's leap straight into it. Okay, so I'm going to talk about trans issues or whatever. I obviously there's this situation going on with she who must not be named at the moment, and I don't want to bring her into this. She's started the conversation, which has been amazing, but I am not. She started the conversation, and that's it. I'm done with her being a part of this whole situation. But I thank her for starting this conversation and getting this ball rolling because it's really important. And it's about trans women. What's the word? Uh, dismissing, which isn't the right word. Trans women not relating to cis women's experiences. Trans women essentially not relating to cis women's experiences, right? So you're following me. And I just want to make a few points, okay? Firstly, trans women, every single trans woman has a different experience and throughout their life being a trans woman. Some are dead by my age because they're trans. So, there's that. It doesn't dismiss my experience as a trans woman or negate or diminish the hardships that I have faced as a trans woman. And it doesn't take away from people that have had it worse than I have. That being said, it's the same with cis and trans women. Trans women's experiences do not take away from cis women's experiences, but that being said, they're no less valid than cis women's experiences. As women, not just as people. I've had my experiences throughout my life have been that of a trans woman. Never have I experienced my life as a cis man, and never have I claimed to have experienced my life as a cis woman. It's the same. It's in the same vein. Women's experiences, you can't take away from that. It's not fair. Every woman's experience is different. A white woman will have a different experience in their life to a black woman, to a Maori woman, to a Muslim woman. They will all have different experiences, and it doesn't take away from any of the hardships that they've faced in their life. Will some of them, in the grand scheme of things, have it easier than others? Of course, 100%, but it doesn't take away the struggle of being a woman. Some people just face their world as a cis white woman that's born into a wealthy neighborhood, and they still face the hardships that women face to a degree. They just face them in different ways. Same with black women born into, sorry to use this, but like into a lower socioeconomic status. They will face different hardships than their white privileged counterparts, but they're all facing hardships due to the fact that they're women. They just face them in different ways. It's the same thing with trans women and their experiences. They face hardships as women, 100%. They just face them in different ways and as different obstacles than their cis counterparts. It doesn't take away from anyone's experience as a woman because every woman's experience is different, but they all line up in one way or another. Not every woman has been catcalled, but a majority have. I have. But it doesn't take away from a cis woman being catcalled, and it doesn't take away from the fact that that's a female experience that I've been through. And if you haven't been through that, it doesn't take away from your experience as a woman. The other thing that I want to address is the whole TERF thing, which some of you may have heard about, trans exclusionary radical feminists, right? The whole idea is that there are some parts of women's rights that trans people just shouldn't be a part of. Uh, Wrong. But I'll tell you through my logic and reasoning why. Why it's transphobic, basically. If you have an all-white women's rights group, and they exclude black women, what are you going to call them? Racist. If you have an all-cis women's rights group and they exclude trans people, what are you going to call them? Transphobic. It is. It's straight up transphobic to exclude a section of women is transphobic, and it stems to you not seeing trans women as women, which in itself is transphobic. I had a real good point, and I've just forgotten it. Oh, bugger me days. Wait, give me a second, it'll come back. She'll come back. So excluding black women makes you racist. Excluding trans women makes you transphobic. Yeah, wouldn't fly. Yes, that's it. We are, as a world, getting collectively more aware of racism and pinpointing it and seeing it. Things that would be totally fine even 20 years ago, 30 years ago, we're seeing as unacceptable now because we're beginning to understand and identify racism when we see it. We are not there as a society with transphobia. We cannot identify and pinpoint, a lot of people cannot identify and pinpoint transphobia when they see it because it's so ingrained in our society. It's so not seen in our society, and trans people as a whole maybe aren't as accepted in our society as they should be. Well, yeah, obviously they're not. So we find it more difficult to see transphobia in certain things than we do racism, because a lot of transphobic things fly still. They're still all good. You ever seen The Hangover Part 2? No, sorry, I'm not bringing that into it. But, you know, there's aspects of maybe a little bit of transphobia there. And it's natural, it's okay. We're getting there. We're slowly becoming more awake as a society into pinpointing things that are socially unacceptable towards any sort of minority, and that is wonderful. And we're starting with racism. It's long overdue and it needs to happen. Racism is not an okay thing, and it never was, it never is, and it never will be. And we need to understand and recognize when we're being racist. And it's something that I'm working on, because ultimately I'm white, you know, and I'm privileged. I'm really, really lucky. And maybe I most certainly surely would have said something racist in my life, like, not to cancel myself or anything, but surely I would have, and intentionally or not. And it's so good to be called out on it and to begin to understand that things that might have been okay are no longer okay, and we can recognize them and pinpoint them when they happen and say, hey, that's not okay, so more people can do that. And we're just not quite there with transphobia yet. We don't a lot of the times recognize it at the moment. Like it just, we don't see it and we don't recognize it and we don't call it out because we don't recognize it yet. It's still an acceptable part of society. What is it? Microaggressions with transphobia. It's still very acceptable part of our society because we haven't learned yet to see it or pinpoint it as transphobia. And that's okay. So those are my musings. Just thought I really wanted to get on a video and record this because it felt like an important thing for me to say out loud, and maybe this will go somewhere, maybe it won't, maybe no one will ever see this and this won't see the light of day, maybe it will, but I just really had to say it for myself. So thanks for watching if you watched this whole thing, and have the most wonderful rest of your life. Take care.